How's it going, everyone? It's Zeph here. Now, today we're going to discuss why I'm personally done with Magic the Gathering. Now, I want to start talking about Magic because I'm not necessarily done with Magic the Gathering as a game as a whole. I'm not dumping my entire collection out into the trash. That's not what's happening. What's happening is I think I'm done with you know Friday Night Magic, tournament play, all those types of things. I just think things are getting a little bit out of hand. I think we've been seeing it with a lot of the bans that have happened over the last year or in 2020. We had a lot of them. We had Oko, Omnath, Uro, Growth Spiral, Teferi Time Raveler, Field of the Dead, and I mean, that could have been stuff that was also from 2019 and 2020. But I think the main problem here is that a lot of the time with this fire design that everyone talks about, um, it creates problems when these cards come out because you're never sure if the card that you just broke from a booster pack is suddenly a $20 card and it drops down all the way down to like a $5 card. And um, what I mean by it is like if you look at MTG stocks, you'll see that Oko was probably around the $40-$30 range, and it crashed to like $7-$10. I mean, you could probably find some Chinese versions or Japanese versions of those cards for like around $5. And again, this has all been in like the last 2 years, which is kind of crazy to think about because it basically means like your cards hold like basically no value. Um, yeah. And again, just like standard, Pioneer has also had kind of like its up and downs. Mostly things like Field of the Dead, Wilderness Reclamation, Thassa's Oracle. Again, just cards that were problematic in the format that should have been resolved as soon as they came out or as soon as they posted up on tournament play. And just personally from experience, because I was one of the pilots of Thassa's Oracle / Inverter of Truth, because I just happened to have a lot of the cards that were part of that deck. So, Thassa's Oracle should have been banned as soon as it started dominating the format. Because for a really long time, all it was Inverter of Truth decks and Pioneer tournaments. Our LGS had small Pioneer tournaments, and half of them, I think, were Inverter of Truth decks, which is very much a problematic thing. You usually want to see a variety of decks. I know that for the sake of wanting to play something different, I would play Is It Wizards because, well, Wizards is my favorite tribe in Magic the Gathering. But yeah, I would never win against an Inverter of Truth deck, especially if I was playing against a really good player, which all the really sweaty players would bring their Thassa's Oracle Inverter of Truth deck, and there wasn't much I could do about it. So, yeah, that was a huge problem, and I'm not sure if Pioneer is ever going to come back, especially after COVID, but I kind of expect some of the new sets to be pretty much the dominating factor in Pioneer. Um, it's not going to be any of the old stuff because the fire design has gotten so out of hand that I think it's ruining a lot of what competitive Magic used to be. Obviously, I'm not saying I want the same decks to dominate for a decade. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is there needs to be some sort of like diversity in formats where it's not one deck dominating the entire time. It's a plethora of decks. I think 2018 during Standard, that might have been the best time to have played Magic. Now, right now there's currently no pro play, which is some of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard Wizards of the Coast say. Now, when I say there's no pro play, I mean Magic's not gonna pay you to be playing their game. There is not a top 10 group of players in Magic the Gathering where you're going to get money for playing this game. You cannot be a walking advertisement for Wizards of the Coast, which to me is a little bizarre because every game, Yu-Gi-Oh, Vanguard, they all have pro play. And yes, those games may not be giving the same prize pools as Magic, or at least how they used to do it, but still, it's a little weird that just because the MPL didn't work out, that for some reason this means that we can't have any more professional play, at that level. Obviously, I think they mentioned that they still want FNM and other forms of competitive play to continue, but I think it's a little ridiculous to assume that because there is no more pro play, that competitive play will continue, especially when the rise of casual formats like Commander is very popular. And maybe this is Wizards thinking that, oh, we don't need the pro scene anymore. We're still making money even after the pandemic. Uh, and maybe it is the end of pro play. Maybe there won't be any more big tournaments like GP Vegas and stuff like that. Now, very briefly, because this could be an entire video by itself, I want to talk about Magic Arena and how trash that economy is. Now, it doesn't matter if a deck and paper cost $1,000 to build, or if it costs $100 to build. I think it's ridiculous to expect players to continually open booster packs on MTGA and not offer a way of directly buying the cards. Now, when MTGO was around, or Magic the Gathering Online, which is the predecessor of Magic Arena, there was like this trade system where things were given monetary value, and let's say you wanted to buy a lightning bolt. Well, you could buy tickets and then trade those tickets to someone else to buy lightning bolt. Now, it did have its up and downs. There were cards that were extremely expensive, and then there were cards that weren't so expensive. And I think under that system, a lot of cards were way more accessible than the way MTGA is currently running right now. The garbage rare is worth just as much as the really good rare, and the garbage mythic is the same as the really high level mythic. And in some cases it works out, but in a lot of cases it doesn't. I remember maybe a year ago, there was a Esper deck that was really popular. Was it Esper Planeswalkers? I think it was Esper Planeswalkers. And building the Esper Planeswalkers was so difficult because it required so many mythic wild cards that you probably had to spend over $300 to try to get all of them. And I think that's kind of ridiculous, especially because it's like one. So they have like this rotation system. So you open like 6 booster packs, and then you get a rare card. But every 4 rares, you get a mythic. And it's just so inaccessible to anyone who wants to start playing. Like, if you've been playing since beta, you're probably okay. You probably have a decent collection of cards. Even if you were just like a free-to-play player, you probably just grinded your way into a collection. But I think it's a lot difficult for a new player to pick up the game right now and try to grind their way into a decent deck, into a historic deck, because it's just so expensive. I used to be able to recommend Magic Arena as a beginner's way to like understand the game and to like maybe play by yourself, get some reps in. But now it's like I have to give a disclaimer every time that I recommend the game to someone, like, hey, go play Magic Arena, learn how to play, learn how to use the stack, and then, if you want to continue, I'm just going to give you a disclaimer. You're not going to be competitive unless you spend like $300 to $500 to be able to play a decent deck. I'm not even talking about like a tier 1 deck. Either that, or you're gonna have to wait 6 months for all your wild cards to accumulate, and then you might be able to build something decent. So I just think that Magic is becoming just a little bit more inaccessible when it comes to formats like Standard, Pioneer, and Modern. It's getting out of hand, and I'm personally not gonna keep trying to keep up with, you know, everything that Magic has going on. Yes, I'm gonna pick up some cards here and there to be able to continue to play with my friends, but this eternal chase of trying to become a pro player or a competitive player at that is just leading to absolutely nowhere. So, you know, I'm done. I'm sure other people feel the same way. Um, Especially with the MPL dissolving, I'm sure that there's a lot of frustrated pros, and I don't blame people for trying to go into other games. I personally have started playing Legends of Runeterra, and I find that the economy there is much friendlier. I mean, you spend $35 and you can play a tier 1 deck, or you can just grind it out for like a month and then you can build a meta deck. Like it's really friendly for people. And there's ways of earning like wild cards that don't necessarily require you to dump either too much money or an excessive amount of time. I just think that Magic needs to change the way that they do like getting cards. So that's all for me today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.